Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Mark, I'm going to throw it over to you at Data IQ and talk about where you all are in this space, what you're seeing across the public sector and perhaps the private sector.
Great, thank you, Luke. At Data IQ, we're making great progress in helping our clients accelerate and scale enterprise AI. It was great to hear David and Jerry talking about, needing to focus on the right use cases. We focus on three key imperatives to help federal agencies become more data-driven and drive adoption on data science and AI. Number one, we need to equip our current workforce with capabilities and tools to become more data literate, to get more resources to the mission. Whether you're an Excel super user or you're a PhD data scientist, we need you in the fight. We're in a race after all, and we're not going fast enough. We don't have enough of people focused on this type of work. MITRE did a study recently that showed about 150,000 potential data science workers in DoD that were not coded as data scientists. So we're really focused on getting these people engaged in data science and productive on the right use cases. Number two, we need to ensure that we're designing and building trustworthy AI applications. A couple of folks have mentioned that already. If they're not trusted, they won't be used, and then the value is lost. So how do we do that? We've got a number of ways of doing that through data lineage, through a very transparent workflow, where everybody involved in building an application can see what has happened from step one all the way through implementation in a workflow. And then the third is moving at the speed of mission. As a government and as a country, we have to be going a lot faster. We're making good progress in each of these areas, but what we see a lot are agencies saying, well, I can't really get after data science in a real way until I move my data to the cloud. I can't really do the things I want to do until I put everything I have into a data lake and do this whole labeling project. We really believe with the right capabilities and getting everybody engaged together, you can do these things simultaneously. So that's really what we're focused on, and we're making great progress. We're working all across the government, from defense through federal, civilian, and state and local. And, a lot of times customers will ask us, what does your AI do? And we have to explain to them, well, there are endless use cases for AI, and Data IQ is here to help you design and build and deploy those in your current architecture.
And we really appreciate everything you're doing on behalf of the Federal Service. Jeffrey, H2O.ai, welcome back. Tell us about the state of the state and how we're doing out there in regards to this pursuit of this capability across the federal sector.
Well, I think what's interesting, and we're relatively new to the public sector. We've been here about a year.
Yeah.
And so our mission has really been to try to help our agency partners understand, and we've used the term earlier here, the art of the possible. And what we've been doing is really trying to meet the agency and the organization where they are in their journey, because we're finding there's a huge disparity in terms of maturity and strategy and personnel and really where they are. Mark talked about their infrastructures and so forth. I mean, as many variables as you can imagine, they exist. And when you move across the DoD and the IC and you get into security issues and over into the federal civilian market with just different sizes. And so part of what we have to do is a lot of listening to understand where they are, because if you take them too far, too fast, you don't have success and you don't build confidence. And if you don't build confidence, you don't have trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't get to production, right? And in our world, we're experts in production. Where there are billion-dollar analytics problems in the private sector, H2O is more than likely running under the hood there. So helping public sector understand what they can do and do it in a crawl, walk, and run fashion. Jerry talked about nobody wants to spend millions of dollars, right? And while we would all love to get that $1 million first check, it's never like that. You've got to crawl, walk, and run. And so I think there's that aspect. And the other area is that, there is a huge disparity between understanding AI and ML. We're talking about Chat GPT 3 and 4 and large language models. It used to be, if you just talked about Star Wars, you were a nerd, right? We're at a whole new level these days. So helping educate management. There just are not enough data scientists for the public sector. There never will be. And so we have to help educate and get everybody on a page where they can do that without having to feel like they need a PhD before they can get started. And so we're finding that there's a lot of education up and down the chain. You've got to develop trusted relationships. And then I think the last thing is that because a lot of this knowledge lives with the data science community, we're seeing a real tendency to really hang on to tools and tooling as opposed to really look at things from a platform perspective. And I think Gardy and Sanjay both talked a little bit about this platform aspect, which is important because the problem sets that all the organizations are dealing with, and David talked about hundreds of use cases. Well, we're finding that there's still a lot of vertical sort of silos in this space where people are really good in very specific use cases, or maybe it's document classification or it's regression or it's other areas. But sometimes these problem sets need to go across natural language processing, big data processing, they need deep learning, there may be object detection. And so helping teams understand that you can do that within a platform environment. And sometimes you have to pry those tools, those custom scripts and all that stuff that data scientists have been caring for over the years out of their hands to help them understand in order to scale this and to get business adoption, you've got to look at it from a platform perspective. So
sure, and that's actually a really good catch. And a lot of this AI tooling is sort of embedded into these comprehensive solutions that the agencies are now acquiring. How about at Talon? Well, first of all, let's give us 30 seconds on what you all do in this space, and then let's talk about the state of the state.
Sure. Yeah. So Talon has been around almost 20 years now. We're considered a global leader in data integration and data management. So we have a enterprise grade platform around data integration, integrity, governance, and data services. So essentially, data is at the heart of what Talon does, and it speaks directly to what we're talking about today, which is AI and ML. From our perspective, these are highly effective tools. They're wonderful. They're exploding. And these models allow agencies and researchers and scientists to create those reliable and repeatable decisions and results that we're seeking, which speaks kind of to the speed of what AI ML can do. But we also know, and this is where Talon comes in, is that the models are only as good as the data that fits them. And for Talon, that data quality and the trusted data is really at the heart of our purpose. So if you can't rely on or trust your data, the decisions that you're making when it comes to the modeling and algorithms, they're just not sound. So we hear all the time from our customers in higher ed, state and local, Fed, and commercial. They sometimes struggle to assess their data because it is siloed and it's different places. They don't know who's touched it, where it's come from. So that quality and trustworthiness and relevance is not there. So that typically leads to what we consider like data cleansing and profiling and all the things that go into making the data worthy. They're spending a lot of time in that space rather than doing actual analysis that can be that proves out the value from that data. So we work with data scientists. They like us, the developers and the modelers, because we help them scale to achieve that data excellence. So the back end, when they're trying to get those results, are met.
Sure, and a good point. The old data in, data out type of situation really shows up in spades when you start talking about this type of technology. We're going to talk about specific use cases. Jerry, we're going to start with you. You brought up some interesting topics there. in your lead off. Give us an example of a specific use case you'd like to profile.
Happy to, Luke. So I will return to one of the use cases I alluded to previously.
Let me guess, the rocking chair.
I will try to avoid talking about the rocking chair, but
I thought that was awesome.
You hit it on the nail.
It's a good point. You know, you go from rocking chair to AI, and you know, all of these need a patent.
Exactly. And, you know, the $1 million question is how to distinguish a rocking chair from a computer, from a drug. That question is actually, you know, fairly easy to solve, right? So, you know, even without fancy AI, maybe just some like sort of keyword segmentation or such, you know, we're able to tell, okay, here, this is rocking chair, this is drug. At that level of granularity, we don't need anything fancy. However, the international classification scheme for patents is not just about separating rocking chairs from computers, from drugs. It's about separating, you know, one type of semiconductor from another. It's about separating, you know, one type of machine learning algorithm from another. You get into these super granular distinctions, even within the same general area. And we are required to make those fine-grained, you know, fine-grained distinctions very cheaply, very quickly, and with very high accuracy. So when we get into the question of, you know, saying, oh, this is a chip for a server and this is a chip for an embedded device, you know, that's something that you can't really just sort of keyword score your way out of. And that's where AI, albeit, you know, narrow AI, sort of bread and butter ML classification is required in order to achieve that sort of last mile of granularity. That's something that fortunately the academic research community and the industry community have sort of solved almost to a T, right? Either single label or multi-label classification is something that's, you know, not nearly a, you know, black art anymore. It's sort of you know, tested, made robust. There are 20 different software packages you can use such that there's still a bit of mystery in this problem, but we're not wading into completely uncharted territory. We're not, you know, operating as our own little, you know, academic research lab, which as a federal agency, you never want to be in the position of having to do that. Instead, we get to use best practices. We get to reuse software libraries from, you know, folks who've been doing this for the past decade or 2 decades, and you know that really reduces both cost of development and buy-in from the agency at large at the outset of starting this project, right? Because we can tell them, we are pretty sure this can be done. And we are, again, going back to viability and customer focus, we're pretty sure it can be done. And after being done, we're pretty sure this has a pretty major impact to the agency on account of saving millions of dollars through the previous manual processes and getting, in many cases, actually getting better accuracy than the previous labor-intensive manual processes. So that's something
better and reduce time, and no question that you've got to get fine-grained when you're talking about the issuance of a patent. So appreciate the use case. Mark, how about a data IQ? Can you give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight?
Absolutely. So Data IQ is a full lifecycle data science platform with everything you need out of the box to address mundane tasks like data access, data prep, data wrangling, all the way to designing and deploying deep learning applications. So it's very, very extensive and extensible. We partner with the Air Force on their Vault data platform. Vault stands for visible, accessible, understandable, linked, and trusted. And the idea is to provide full lifecycle data science capabilities to their 15 alpha operations research analysts. So it's an enterprise-wide capability so folks can have persistent or ad hoc access to data. They can label it, manipulate it, cleanse it, and experiment on an endless number of use cases. Of increasing importance right now is ensuring that insights that are generated from these applications are available in the workflow of the consumer, right? We're generating these insights. Are we deploying them in a a web page? Are we deploying them in an existing application or workbench? That's really key so that folks can take the insights and use them in the course of their work, whether they be an airman, somebody in leadership, a data analyst, or other stakeholder. Some examples of use cases that we've worked with them on are financial planning and analysis. People don't think of AI as financial planning and analysis, but you can automate pipelines to make these kinds of tasks really, really fast. Workforce planning, document classification, predictive maintenance, computer vision, all of these things are possible in our platform.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate what you're doing for the Air Force. Gardy, specific example that you'd like to top line there.
All right, thanks. Since we're talking about data, I'll talk about an example that deals with big data. When we think about the way AI and machine learning is used on data to sort of give us the insight to make decisions, we typically don't think about how that is arranged. But if you can think of a pyramid, right, where a lot of what we consume, the average folk consume, is at the top of the pyramid, right? And there are different layers, and at the very bottom of that is where our researchers kind of spend their time consuming data, consuming information, so that they can get to the next level of their research. So out of the NETL lab, the National Energy Technology Laboratory Research Innovation Center, there is this very, very intriguing project around smart search. This is where they're using a big data algorithm to find data in ways that incorporate different varieties of machine learning techniques and natural language processing capabilities to really, really get out the information that a researcher would need. I think Jerry was trying to sort of point out, sometimes we can apply AI to sort of solve sort of the quick wins, but when it comes down to sort of the specialized application of AI, you really have to sort of get down into the nitty gritty application of AI. And this project has been out there for a few years now, and it's just amazing what they're able to do in terms of looking really, really deep into the file structure to get at the information that the researcher is looking for and be able to present it to them in a way that they could make decision. And the great thing about it also, they are taking a multi-cloud approach to have to sort of overcome sort of scaling limitations, because when you start going that deep, you will consume a lot of resources, and they want to be able to rapidly deploy it in different environments where necessary, and also to sort of mitigate some of the data and service sort of redundancy that may come as a result. So it's a very interesting project. There is another one where our Oregon laboratory is looking at how to apply AI in terms of operations to help them to figure out how to automatically push out lessons learned to lab folks, and to make sure that they can put forward the best safety applications. As you know, in any laboratory where there are research, particularly around chemicals and whatnot, safety is a big thing. So they're using data, they're using AI to help to kind of get at that, and they're able to do that because of the data that is available to them, and how they're sort of manipulating and consuming and mining that data.
A lot of data and a lot of great technology that can take advantage of all this data that's available to us. All right, we're going to take another short break. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on the Federal News Network.